as we like try to break away from this idea, like, I mean, that process is anti-racism, like whether or not it sounds cringe.
Okay,
I
so
think that's a
sure,
good thing to
I
advocate
just
for.
call it like we can just call it not being racist. That's fine. That can be part of not being racist. We don't have to have like a new term every time we find like another way to remove a rib to like suck ourselves off. It is a new term. And saying anti-racist, that's a new term.
Doesn't being anti-racist just means you're normal? Like, anti-racist literally just means that you're not racist. It just means that you're normal.
But I was pushing back because there's been several times in conversations, usually with conservatives, where you'll mention this book and describe it as advocating that like black students need to like run around the classroom to learn math.
What?
Because they like fundamentally need to learn math differently
What?
than white students. And I thought this was a bad way to represent the content of this book. And I would add on top of that, besides that like representation of this,
A pathway to equitable math instruction, dismantling racism in mathematics. What? It's racism in math? Hey, I'm not trying to laugh at this. It's just kind of funny because I never even thought like this would be like a real issue. But hey, welcome to the new world, man. This is like a whole book.
book being kind of not good. Also, it kind of feeds into the narrative of like critical race theory and stuff, which I mean, right now Florida is dealing with like this, like DeSantis banning this AP African American history class, right? And so I think that like it's really important that we kind of push back against that kind of stuff and like and try not to feed in to those narratives as much as possible.
Okay.
What?
I agree, but I think that part of that is going to be not defending really cringy stuff like this book.
Okay, so I mean, do you have the book open?
Yeah.
Okay, and what do you hate about it right now?
Well, can you give me like 2 minutes to read through, and we can start going through things?
Yeah, for
You're
sure.
gonna read a book in 2 minutes, little bro?
Oh God, Latinx, it's right here. Great. Okay, sorry. Okay, we're good. Hold on.
What? These common practices that
I hate the treadmill of
perpetuate
terms. Like, it's not enough to be not racist. You have to be anti-racist.
These common practices that perpetuate white supremacy culture create and sustain institutional and systemic barriers to equity for Black, Latinx, and multilingual students. In order to dismantle these barriers, we must identify what it means to be anti-racist math educator. What, bro? What? What in the world? Math to me, that if anything, that's probably the least racist subject that it can ever be in school because it's just numbers and symbols. Like, how could that be racist? Like, it is literally numbers and symbols. It has nothing to do with society. It has nothing to do with skin color whatsoever. So the fact that there's an entire book dedicated to dismantling racism in math. Hey, anyways, let's continue watching this because I think this is going to get crazy.
Like in 20 years, is it going to be like, it's not enough to be just an anti-racist. You've got to be like an equality promoter. And then it can't be enough to be an equality promoter. You've got to be an equality non-negotiator. Like, it's so f***ing cringe. You've got to be anti-racist. Like, give me a sorry.
Well, I think we should be anti-racist because if racism is so, we can get into the specifics, like the specific like tenets of critical race theory. But I think like one of the things that is like the number one tenet that critical race theory like builds off of is that like race is that racialization of people. The idea that there are these unique, distinct categories of human beings that we can sort into races, and that like there's some like fundamental essence to like a black person that like a white person doesn't have, and that like as we like try to break away from this idea, like, I mean, that process is anti-racism, like whether or not it sounds cringe, like I think that's a good thing to advocate
just
for.
call it like we can just call it not being racist. That's fine. That can be part of not being racist. We don't have to have like a new term every time we find like another way to remove a rib to like off. It is a new term. Saying anti-racist, that's a new term.
Yeah, anti-racist?
I don't know.
Doesn't being anti-racist just means you're normal? Like, anti-racist literally just means that you're not racist. It just means that you're normal. Because when the term racism came out, it's like, oh, you're racist. Like, oh, like, why would you say that? That's racist. Like, when you heard that term, they were like, a minority of people. So like when you saw someone, because everyone else was just normal. So when you call somebody that, it just meant that they were not normal. Like they were just discriminatory. But nowadays, there's racist, and then there's normal, and then there's anti-racist. I'm just kind of confused. If y'all know what's going on, let me know. I don't have time for this, man.
It might be. I don't think it is. I suspect that like it kind of.
Wait, have you?
I suspect that it was used in. Well,
Hold
go
on.
ahead.
How old are you?
I'm 30.
Okay, I'm 34. You never heard the term anti-racist growing up. I never heard that term growing up.
No, of course not.
Okay.
But I didn't hear. I mean arguably that's part of my point in this whole conversation is that I didn't, a lot of these things I didn't learn about growing up.
Well, that's
Like,
because some of these are probably fairly new, right? Isn't that kind of the point?
I don't know. Like critical race theory, like originated in like the 70s.
Sure, but in terms of like being distilled down to the level where it's starting to be something relevant to grade school educators.
Yeah, it apparently took like 50 years.
Yeah, so that's what I mean when I say relatively new, right? In terms of it getting to this level, right? Okay, so here's like so I'm on page 10. These are kind of weird things. So, okay, so I'll give credit first, okay? Design a culturally sustaining math space. Use culturally relevant anti-racist pedagogy practices and curriculum. Okay.
Anti-racist.
Cultivate mathematical identity so that everyone can see themselves as mathematicians. That's really good. Design homework policies that are responsive to the lives of students of color in order.
I do think that's good. I think we need to teach children or people who are interested in math that anybody can do math. Like, it's not something that only the super genius people can do. But I don't think that has anything to do with race necessarily. It just has to do with like an insecurity that people have approaching the subject of math, because it looks complicated, but anybody can do it. Even sometimes I'm like, bro, this stuff is hard. I don't know how I'm gonna do it. But anybody can do it. Don't know how that has to do with race, but we're gonna see.
In order to support their learning needs. That's a little bit weird. I don't know what the fuck race has to do with that, but okay. Recognize and name the mathematical strengths of students of color and teach them to recognize these strengths in themselves and others. I guess if you're talking about just like saying there are good black people that are good at math too, maybe. And then intentionally... What?
Go ahead.
And then intentionally integrate physical movement in math classes. That sounds fine.
That's the one, right?
Nope, that sounds perfectly fine.
Well, but I think I don't know if there was another part, but I feel like that was the bullet point that kind of set off the way that you characterized this book a few different times. So
Correct.
I think the first time you read this book, you didn't like that, yeah.
Well, no, hold on. We'll get to that because it's in here. My problem, and I think I told you this in person, integrating physical movement to math is fine. But when you say we need to integrate physical movement into math because that's how black people learn math, that's insane. One of those statements is perfectly fine. The other one is crazy.
And I was just about to say this, because this book, to me, is extreme. This is probably the most disrespectful. This is the most disrespectful video I've ever seen in my life. Because I'm studying engineering, and as y'all know, it takes a lot of math. And obviously, I'm black. Like, I'm black. So when I hear that there's a book out here titled Dismantling Racism in Mathematics Instruction, and one of the rules to dismantling racism in mathematics is to intentionally integrate physical movement in math classes, as if because we're black and athletic, I guess, we aren't able to learn unless it involves physical movement for us, unless it involves dribbling a basketball or throwing a football or doing a crossover in class. Like, what do you mean involve physical movement? Like, that's racist, bro. We can learn math. So when I'm seeing this book, it just rubs me the wrong way, honestly, but we're going to continue.
It's like some shit over here, Fuentes.
I kind of agree. I don't think it says that specifically.
Okay.
But I guess we can run through the three of these that you said. Like the first one you said was kind of weird, was designing homework policies that are responsive to the lives of students of color in order to support their learning needs. So would you agree that black people in the U.S. On average perform lower in math classrooms?
Yes.
Like perform worse? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So like, how do we improve that?
My guess is there's going to be a lot of socioeconomic conditions that are hampering a student's ability to learn. So coming from a single-parent household,
I agree with all that, of course.
Uh-huh.
How does a math teacher, like a specific math teacher who has like a class full of like mostly black students or even a few black students, like how would they, or even just a few students of color, like how would they engage with this?
The exact
If they-
same
if
way
they
they'd
notice the
engage with a
students are, like,
classroom full.
like-minded?
Yeah, the
Of
exact
white
same way they'd
students.
engage with a classroom full of very poor white students.
What are you talking about?
Do you think that this is like the kind of the what's
Why does he keeps stuttering like that? No, why do people look at us as the word creatures or something? We are humans. We are humans. He keeps trying to put emphasis on the word young black students in impoverished. Like, what should they do? So black people aren't leading in math in the United States. So what should a teacher do when they have a classroom full of black students? The same thing if they had a classroom full of white students. You think they should like incorporate black culture into math? Like, what are you trying to say? We are humans. We are normal people. Why do they keep? Bro, this is so insulting, man. I don't even. Oh, this is so insulting, man. This is so insulting.
critiqued as like the liberal colorblindness approach?
I think it's better than the progressive race realism approach.
Well, actually, that term, it's kind of funny that term actually is co-opted from critical race theorists, and what it meant in that what critical race theorists used the term race realist, they're actually referring to the permanence of racism and like how it materially impacts people, like being like the history of racism and the continued like racialization of people and how it perpetuates a lot of these structures that like lead to these disparities. Including in healthcare, but of course, like education in this context.
That's totally fine, but at the end of the day, I think that a white kid and a black kid are still going to learn math similarly, coming from similar backgrounds. You would treat the kid based on the background, not on the race of the kid.
Thank you.
Well, I would argue that in some ways, like the race is the background.
Can you give me an example of that?
What? Oh my gosh, man. And these are the people who say they're for us. These are the people who say that they're for us, bro. We have someone in here who's really trying to justify involving racist tactics, because this is racism, to teach black kids math. An example of that is involving physical movement, because a very strong stereotype of black people is that we're athletic. That's a stereotype. So intentionally integrate physical movement plays into the stereotype. Design homework policies that are responsive to the lives of students of color in order to support their learning needs. What does this mean to me? Design homework that intertwines with a black person's life. If Jamarcus had 5 basketballs and Jamal had 10 basketballs, how many basketballs can they dribble together? Like, what? I don't understand what they're really trying to say here, and it's extremely insulting, because every day I wake up and study and study and study and work and work and work and work, looking up equations, writing down formulas, writing 30-40 pages of notes just to study for a differential equations test. Every day I wake up trying to get my degree, trying to do what I can just to learn calculus, learn differential equations, learn polynomials, learn this, learn engineering, learn that, applying for internships. Every single day I wake up chasing what I want. And then we have other people who supposedly are trying to do something good for our race, getting on here saying, well, your color is your background, and because of that, you're not able to learn math the same way we're able to learn math. So we're gonna change the rules for you because you're not quite up there yet with your intellect. That is the most insulting thing I've ever heard. Where I'm telling my young black people that you can do anything through Christ. You can do anything that you work hard for. I'm not gonna say too much. We're gonna watch this video because this gets even crazier.
That I mean that like someone's race is not like an immutable characteristic, right?
Sure, but when you say that, what I'm thinking in my mind is the scene in The Wire where Wallace is teaching his little brother math, and the kid can't do like a bus picks up 4 kids, it drops off 2 kids, and picks up 5 kids. And he said, okay, well, let's say that you're running the spot, and a crack dealer buys $10 worth of crack, he drops 12, he blah blah blah, and he's like, oh, okay, I can do that. And he's like, how the keep the count right? That's what I'm thinking of when you say black math. So you give me a better example, because aside from like drug dealing, well, no, but aside from drug dealing, I don't know what the talking about when you say that, like, well, how do black kids have to learn math a little bit differently than white kids? Like, give me an example of that, because other than like some crazy shit like that, I can't think of what somebody could possibly be saying.
Well, what about? Well, I think the idea might be like,
what is black math?
Kind of encouraging the kids to try to relate it to their own lives, regardless of what. Like that example
like
is a little cartoonish.
And here's the thing, that would actually be a great idea, teaching math in a way that someone can relate it to their own lives. But why are you singling out black children? There are Indian children, East Asian, West Asian children. There are white children. There are Native American children. Why are you singling out black children, trying to relate it to their lives? What does that mean? And I know what he's trying to do. He's trying not to say it. He's really trying to dance around the subject. And this is what I'm talking about, y'all. This is what I'm talking about, that people don't see us as equal. And here I come on videos every time saying like we can do anything, and I'm trying to promote a positive message, but this is what I'm talking about.
So I'm asking, like, what is different between the black person's life and the white person's life?
I'm not saying there's going to be any. Okay, I'm not saying there's going to be any one thing that's like never going to apply to a white kid that will like that's more like, or that's only going to apply to a black kid, right? I'm not saying that, but I am saying that there might, and I don't know what the specifics are here, but there might be things that could be more likely to apply to a black kid.
You're saying right now, everything you're saying could be something that Nick Fuentes is saying without examples, because everything you're saying.
I don't think Nick Fuentes would ever engage with any of this stuff.
Dude, Nick Fuentes would have a field day. Dude, I shouldn't even mention it, because I could give this dude, like, he could literally, if I was Nick Fuentes.
The reason I jumped to this spot is because I wanted to read something. It says, number 1, white supremacy culture shows up in math classrooms when good math teaching is considered an antidote for mathematical inequality for black, Latinx, and multilingual students. Black practices. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm messing up right now because all I've seen is black math. I don't know what black math is. Maybe it's a new subject that I wasn't introduced to yet. But it says best practices for math, but I don't even know what word that is. I'm not even gonna hold y'all. Often exclude the unique needs of black and multilingual, Latinx, or migrant students. So apparently the best practices for math so happen to target us in the worst ways possible, and they somehow reinforce stereotypes against us.
I would take a lot of the CRT material and I would do a 30-minute segment on my stream where we do like Black Math Hour, and we take like one page of this and we show like, oh, today we're going to learn Black Math Hour, right? Rather than worrying about tests, black people are going to see who can clap the most complicated rhythm from a Tupac song, and then I would have 3 people in blackface do it, and we would take it out of our CRT book, and that would be my content for the day. Like Fuentes could do it word for word, writing all of this shit, right? Like.
You're definitely right to say that Nick could find like some really like terrible misrepresentation of any of these ideas. And,
you say misrepresentation, but he'd be following the text pretty closely.
There, you were talking about people in blackface and doing Tupac songs, like you're already so
there
far
wouldn't be many.
from,
They wouldn't have. Okay, if you just replace them with black people.
Well, that's black.
Okay,
math.
I don't know how many black people it has. Like, but like today we're doing like, what's up, guys?
Like
Did you guys remember to bring your tap shoes for math class today? And
if y'all have any black math questions, comment them down below, because I genuinely want to hear what they would be. I don't even understand how this exists, because I think we're all created equal. We can all learn math. And honestly, let's talk about it. Let's say you do go to black children and teach them black math. How would that help them? Let's say they want to become an engineer. Let's say they want to become a mathematician. Now they're programmed in a way that they can only learn math if it involves the culture within themselves. For example, when Destiny brought up The Wire earlier in the video, and the child didn't understand the math analogy unless it involved selling illegal substances. It doesn't help in any way, but What do I know?
3 fans would be like, yeah, of course we did. That's good because today we're going to learn multiplication and we all know that the only way to learn that would be, and then he'd turn on like Billie Jean from fucking, Michael Jackson, Thriller would start playing. It's like dancing.
But again,
that's how black people learn math.
none of these things, no point in any of this stuff is saying that there's one way that black people need to learn math or learn any concept.
No, but it's saying
Like,
that it
none
needs
of
to be
this is
different.
saying
It has
that.
to. It seems like it's different from white people. That's why we need ethno-mathematics.
If we have specific, if in a specific subject we have different outcomes in math, success in math classes, between like a racial disparity in success in math classes, then there are going to be things on average that are going to apply to black students that won't necessarily be as useful to apply to white students.
What does that mean?
What do you mean?
What specifically is applying to black students that isn't applying to white students?
They try to segregate math class. Like, what? They try to segregate math, bro. Like, this is insane. This is 2023. They're trying to segregate math. What would happen? Like, would you say, okay, the black students sit on the left side of the class and the white students sit on the right? Like, what do you mean? Like, you gonna have Dr. J come in and teach the black students math and have freaking the regular teacher, I guess, teach the white students math? Like, what? And where do other races factor into this? Like, where do Asian people factor into this? Or where do, I guess they said Spanish people also fit on the black side. So I guess come on over here. Our math class gonna be lit. We having parties in there. Yeah, we have freestyle Fridays where we rap our best calculus equations. We try to freestyle our derivatives. Yeah, let's get it. It's lit. Like, what are you trying to say?
What specifically is applying to black students? I guess that there are. See,
What?
This is where I wish I had like more of these like hard examples of like
Yeah, me
ways that
too.
these things.
Well, but like I'm just saying,
Yeah,
like if we have all the things.
Inventing it. I didn't write all these things. Okay.
No, but you gave a fight with me about it.
My main reason for coming in here is that I want to encourage you to try to have a better faith engagement with this material rather than expecting me to have like.
It's really bad.
I don't, but you haven't been. You might be right now, and I appreciate it, and I'm glad we're having this conversation. And thank you seriously for bringing me on. I've been wanting to do this for a long time. I'm not saying that I'm going to be able to like defend this shit to the grave in every single context, but I am saying that like the people who put these things together, they're not all insane people who are if you ask them questions about these things would say it's not my job to educate you, blah blah blah. Like I think there's a lot underlying this that has just been completely like blown over, and because you look at some sentences and you're like, well, this sounds bad. Nick Fuentes could use this to say some bad things, so it's not even worth engaging with.
I'm asking you to give an example of something that would justify these sort of changes you're describing, and you're lost. You're totally lost.
What's the specific? Wait, hang on.
Give me an
example of one of the changes that I proposed that you want an example for.
I asked a second ago, what is an example of something that applies to black students that doesn't apply to white students that justifies these changes in curriculum? And you can't give an answer. Does that bother you?
A little bit, yeah. I wish I had better answers. I would like to.
What?
That's why I'm having these conversations.
So you're just promoting racism just for the fun? Like, this is just something you just woke up, you don't even know why you're doing it? Like, where do other races apply to this? Like, is it just like a paper bag test you need to pass in order to enter into the black math class versus the white math class? So what if you're biracial? So, like, what class do you go to? Slide to the left, I'm in the white class. Slide to the right, I'm in the black. Like, what class would you be in? Anyways, I'm going to end this video here. If y'all want a part 2, I don't know why you would want a part 2 to this, but let me know in the comments. If you have any black math questions, please let me know. Am I crazy? I don't know. Anyways, it's LFR Jojo. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.